Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu 2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. My name is Tim. I'll be one of your hosts for this journey. The whole crew is back today. We have Brett. He's joining us again. What's up?
Sup?
We got Anuj. What's up?
Hey, fellas.
How was your vacation?
Incredible. It was a lot of fun, man.
Good deal. We'll talk about it here in a second. But first, I have to tell the listeners that this is TCR episode 61. The date, May 26, 2017. Yeah, that's not a mistake. That's 2 shows in 1 week,
Man,
boys and girls.
We do it for you.
The time, 8:32 exactly. We have a wonderful show for you today. And in fact, when I was kind of doing the show prep, I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this is probably the best episode ever. Because we have CSGO, so much CSGO. We have the ESL Dallas preview. ESL Season 5 is wrapping up, and we're going to talk everything you need to know before next week's tournament. That's really it. We just want to do a special show for that. But before we get into that, the State Department contacted us and saying, hey, we are below our minority minimum quota. You got to let Anuj back on the show. So I was like, okay. So Anuj is back. Anuj, we talked about Brett's journey into Paris last week. You went to Italy? Spain?
Went to Italy. Yeah, we were in Italy.
The whole trip in Italy?
Whole trip in Italy.
How'd you like it? How long were you gone?
So we were there for 14 days and kind of just traveled from north to south. Went to Florence, Rome, and then down to the southern coast, which is Amalfi Coast. There's like 4 different cities there. And man, it was a good time. I mean, I haven't traveled overseas before. I've been to like South America and like, Canada and obvious, stuff like that around here. But first time overseas, and I mean, it was an experience, man.
You were also a victim of the jet lag.
Yeah, it caught me there for a couple of days.
You were in town Wednesday when we recorded last time, but you had to sit out.
I was knocked out, man.
You
we went to
wanted
bed.
to reschedule tonight.
Wanted to. I was tired.
But you left work early. You had dedication, and you were like, listen,
true dedication,
boss, I got to record a podcast.
It's episode 61.
It's like,
this is a big one.
Because priorities, damn it.
No, the day we got back, I passed out at like 5:30, woke up
I know,
at 2 a.m.
You messaged the group, and I was like, guys, when you get home, let me know. And I kept texting you. I was like, okay, buddy, I'm home.
Out.
Where are you out?
Out cold.
Yeah, it's no joke, man.
No, but happy to be back. Happy to be back on the show. It feels like it's been a long time, so...
About 2 weeks.
I'm ready to do this,
It's been a while, man. Well, good, because we, like I said, have a lot of discussion going on here today. ESL is the fifth season is ending. ESL Season 5. That's what I was trying to say. Is next week. All the teams are set. It's one of the more premier tournaments of the year. It's ESL, ECS, Star Ladder, somewhat. They have those season-long ones, and now we're at finally the climax of it.
It's as close as you get to a major without it being a major.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because you've been actually following. It's not like a random weekend tournament. It's a full build-up with a season-long thing. Now, this is a more special ESL, especially to us, because it is in Dallas. Well, quotation mark Dallas. It's actually in Grand Prairie, Texas, for you people who don't live in the area. It's about 20, 30 minutes away from Dallas. But, semantics.
Yeah.
So that's where it's going to be at. It's the first time in how long that it's back here?
I think like since 2006 or something. It's been a long time.
It's been a while since Dallas used to be a pretty popular place for esports.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, for
MLG,
MLG
and
ESCA, there was a lot of esports in our area, and I feel like recently now it's finally getting back to it. You know, you had MLG Dallas, but we went around. We didn't go to it, but we went and saw the the scene, if you will. And now this is coming back. It's going to be at the Verizon Theater in Grand Prairie, Texas. Like I said, it's about 20 minutes or so, maybe 30 if the traffic sucks, away from Dallas. It's closer to Arlington, where the Cowboys play, the Rangers, Six Flags, everything there for you. The Verizon Theater, just to give you an idea, okay, because, again, if you're from the area, that really doesn't do anything. When you hear Verizon Theater, you're kind of like, okay, well, it's a nice building, but there's nothing out there. But a minor league baseball team
and a
horse track.
Horse race.
Yeah.
You want to go and bet some races?
Texas Roadhouse.
Texas Roadhouse, and I think there's a quick trip down the street.
Oh, man, that's legit.
Yeah. Fun story about that quick trip real quick is I was on my way to a concert, had a headache, and bought Tylenol and didn't realize it was PM. So that was a fun concert. It does seat 6,000 though, about 6,350 according to the internet. So it's going to be, if that fills out, it's going to be a pretty decent size. I think it's going to fill out.
Oh, yeah.
If not, get close. I mean, it'll feel like a packed house. Even the way the stadium is set up. Yeah, even if it's like three-fourths full.
It is called the Verizon Theater, and it is a theater. Like, everyone is looking in one way. You have the stage up. It's going to be great. Now, before we really break down the teams and groups, I do want to spend a little time about talking how we got to the finals, right? Like I said, we had this whole season building up. We talked a little bit, very briefly, in E-News last week about some of the storylines, but we more so teased it ahead for today's show because there's a lot to talk. So first, I want to talk about the EU side of the season. I feel, well, you know what? Change of plans. We're going to do some live programming because I feel like the EU, there's a lot more to discuss. There's a lot more controversy and a lot more surprises. So I want to save that for second. Let's talk about NA first. Because, little fun fact with this NA division, gentlemen, it is the same 6 teams making it this year that did last year.
Which can, you think, oh, well, it's NA. There's not that many good teams in NA, but there was some notable, teams that, could have beat out, at least NRG.
It's a surprise and not a surprise.
5 of these were a given. Like 5 of these you knew were going to make it.
Right.
And NRG is the one wild card. Granted, they got 4th, but
you could probably swap NRG out with CLG or Luminosity on any.
Yeah,
any
even Luminosity.
time.
I think Luminosity is, whatever. CLG, I guess Misfits look decent. Renegades have been good.
Misfits
in the past.
looked good towards the end.
Yeah.
They took a little bit to find their stride. They beat Navi in whatever tournament it was that they beat Navi in. But that a little too late.
Mm-hmm.
Now, throughout all this, though, okay, Liquid, ever since they got Twists, have really turned it around. I mean, they got, 2nd place for the NA side, NA being North American, for those who don't know. Ever since they got Twists, if my numbers are correct, they've been 17-11.
Yeah, so I went back and looked at that, and it's a little misleading because they beat all lower tier competition, like lower tier 1 competition, but lose to any significant team.
Anyone they might be playing here?
Yeah, I mean, really, C9 is the only one that I think they took two matches on, but anybody else that they played EU-wise or even top tier NA was lost. But they've looked better.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're looking just recently, at teams that are in the tournament and, how they fared, really the only person that they played lately is SK, right? And they lost both games. So
yeah. But again, the NA side is fairly predictable.
It's predictable.
5 out of
and
the
even
6.
then, SK was in first with 54 points. Well, right behind them were Liquid and Immortals with 51. So it wasn't even like SK fully ran away with it, right? They just
these teams I feel like
match.
At the top play to be top 6. It makes no difference.
Get into the tournament,
get in and
we'll
fine.
figure it out there, right? Because you got either way. If you make it here, you have to make it through EU at the tournament, and that's really the real.
Yeah, there's no home field advantage for being number 1 in this case.
No,
so just get in and you're set.
Now, Immortals, this is an interesting one going in because they are a different team now than what they were a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They benched FNX.
And brought in King G.
So where do you
Who
guys...
is like a huge upcoming player in the Brazilian scene.
Right.
So, he could surprise a lot of people, but he's unproven in land.
Well, and it's a
and
newer roster.
It's a new roster.
And even in the best teams, most recently SK, they brought in the Portuguese player Fox.
Oh, Fox.
And they fared well, but even the best teams, when you add a player, it's like, Counter-Strike's like the ultimate game where all 5 people matter, and if you're not on the same page, then you're gonna have a hard time.
If he doesn't play the same spots as FNX, it's a huge transition because now everybody has to move out of a comfort zone. To me, this is a killer for Immortals because FNX is one of the best riflers in game, one of the poorest attitudes as far
I
as
also
what we
think
hear
it
in
speaks
game.
volumes to his attitude.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're willing to bench a guy 2 weeks before a tournament that you've been playing for since February,
It's telling, right?
it's
And it's probably the
not
biggest financial
good.
tournament they'll play in all year.
Yeah.
Let's assume they don't make a major and maybe don't get invited to ESL 1. They probably won't have a tournament of this magnitude, for them the rest of the year. So, yeah, it speaks volumes on FNX's attitude and what's really going on behind the scenes over there.
Now, as far as Cloud9 goes, this is one where they finished the season in 5th after last year they won the league. They won Season 4. They beat SK, funny enough, on Brazilian soil,
Yeah.
which just the irony in that is just magnificent that Brazil has this really good Counter-Strike community. They get a tournament, and then their 2 powerhouse teams don't win, and Cloud9 wins.
Well, they're the hottest team coming into the tournament right now.
Yeah.
They're, 10-1. I know you looked up some of the numbers there. And
Yeah, just most recently in their last 8 games, they've only lost 1 match, and that was at Optic. And you think, well, who they played? Well, SK, they're in the tournament. NRG, they're in the tournament. They beat Optic once,
And beating SK wasn't just like a ESL match. That was in the finals of the Subaru Invitational. So they beat him in a best of 3 with
high stakes,
high stakes
right?
at that
Yeah.
point. So again, LAN event, Classic C9. I think their 2 wins this year are Subaru and iBuyPower. I think are their 2 first place
which is
finishes.
like their annual.
Yeah, their annual win for them at this point. But yeah, they're one of the hotter teams going in.
Yeah.
So it'll be that'll be a fun storyline to follow.
Yeah, they got 2 things going for them. They're hot, like you said, but also as far, you look at the rosters in the tournament, and continuity comes into play too. They've had the same roster for quite a while now, so that has to play into it.
Yeah, you can see them gelling right now, and they just need to have everybody on point. They can't afford to have one person off. It doesn't work with that team. So if everybody comes in and is playing their game, then they have a chance to go far.
And like you said, you could kind of get away with that during the regular season because top 6 go. You're on the NA side, which is, like we said,
A guaranteed
beat out
Yeah.
maybe one other team, and you're going to be in top 5, and then worry about the rest when you get there.
Hater.
Because the other side is EU, the Europe division, which has a lot more controversy going on. Some people don't like the way that they set this up where it's EU and NA because they feel like it's unfair or you don't get the best teams at the event. I don't even know where to begin with the storylines of these. Obviously, let's start with Virtus Pro because we did mention them last week in E-News, or I guess last episode, 2 days ago in E-News, where for the 2nd consecutive season, Penta has knocked them out of the Pro League, and now they are back to being Virtus Premier.
With the setup that we were talking about, I could enter the salt mine here, for a moment. I would take VP, even though they're 9-17 on the season, over half of the top 6 of the NA division, to qualify. The setup, the way it's set up, it is what it is. So I understand, hey, the top 6 from both sides have to go, but just going down the roster to see the groups that we are missing out on kind of hurts me inside because for us, we're getting to attend the event. And we're missing out on some of the best teams in the world
But
right
then
now.
you have to figure out, on the flip side, like how would you even restructure it?
You couldn't, because servers become the issue, right? Like, what do? You
Season,
can't have...
For those who don't know, in any of these season leagues, ECS, ESL, any of these season leagues, the season itself is online. They don't get together every week to do a LAN. This is online play.
Yeah.
Hence the reason why you have to have it split.
Yeah, you have to have a server that's neutral for everybody to play on. So you'll never have NA versus EU in a season. It just wouldn't work out. And my issue with this is, like a traditional sport of let's say the big four, for example, bottom feeding teams or your worst teams have an opportunity to get better every year through the draft. So you progressively see a shift in power or a balance shift happen from time to time, and that's where the parity kicks in. You'll never have that in CS. So you're always going to have a much stronger competitive scene in EU versus NA. And that's where the unfairness comes in for teams like Astralis or a FaZe, for example, not making this tournament. But every viewer or any even casual fan that knows the sport knows that you're missing out on two of the best teams because of a technicality of where everybody lives.
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's that way. It's like that in a lot of sports. There's parity. Like, for the longest time, as far as I can think back, NBA, the Western Conference has always been better than the Eastern Conference, and you always get that 8 or 7 seed that has a losing record. But it is what it is, you know.
Like, there's no free agents where you're really going to see a bunch of EU players shift over to NA or vice versa. So that's where you don't get the parity. But like I said, what is the solution at the end of the day? I don't really...
There really isn't.
Yeah, there really isn't.
There's someone who gets paid more money than we do to come up with one. And the solution, honestly, is all teams be in one place. That's the only solution.
Well,
to where you're not going to have someone complain about it.
If they wanted to do this, which I think would cause an uproar, is making it 8 teams from EU go and 4 from NA
and
go.
that won't
and it wouldn't fly well, so it would be a pain. But you know, like I said, there's no easy solution.
And I don't want to bog down on it because we've discussed it in our chat where I'm with you. I'm not arguing. I'm not disagreeing that it definitely sucks that the best teams, you know, outside of the season cannot go, right?
The number 1 and number 2 teams in the world.
Right, yeah. The number 1 and number 2 teams in the world are not going to be in this tournament.
Wait, we're talking about
FaZe and
Virtus
Astralis
and Nip, right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
We don't want to talk about
Ninjas,
Nip,
right.
okay? Don't worry about it. Hey, we're a respectable 13.
I understand that argument, but at the same time, I don't have sympathy for them, especially for a team like Virtus Pro, where you get people where they're like, man, I just wonder what's wrong with Virtus Pro. Nothing's wrong with Virtus Pro. They don't care about online play. So don't feel sorry for Virtus Pro. Don't buy in when you see Pasha tweet saying like, man, we're just in a bad spot. We got to figure this out. They're not trying to figure out anything. You know what they're figuring out? What they can do to pass time between now and the next LAN tournament that they're instantly going to get invited to.
This only becomes the issue when you run into the NIP situation where you start to not qualify for LAN events.
Right.
You know, and
NIP,
then it becomes a problem.
Yes,
so.
NIP is the actual team here that should be freaking out because they are dropping rapidly. Correct me if they're not going to the next major.
No,
they are completely
out. They lost
out.
in the minors.
Yes, they lost in like the qualifier to the qualifier.
Yeah. So that was not a good look.
Yes.
I mean, and they got worked. It wasn't just a... It was bad. So
NIP, don't confuse. NIP is on the downward spiral where Virtus Pro, they decide when to.
Can they make another
exemption?
exemption? You know what's going to happen will be the interesting thing.
I will be so upset if they find a way. So last year when Virtus Pro, for those who don't know, when Virtus Pro was relegated into the minors, basically, all of a sudden this random extra qualifying tournament, a 4-team tournament popped up out of nowhere with sure enough Virtus Pro in it being the heavy favorites because it's like Penta was in there who beat them, but again that was
Penta's the one that lost the spot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Penta they were upset, rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, they thought they qualified, then you pull out this tournament, this random tournament, but again, not going to get bogged down with it. 7th and 8th, again, not qualifying, FaZe and Astralis. And at first when I saw that, I was like, Astralis, no excuses. you blew it. FaZe, at first I was like, well, roster moves. However, that's not the case really, because Nico joined FaZe after DreamHack Vegas.
Which was before the first game, right?
So the season started February 7th. He joined February 19th.
Okay, so
They played
that's right
8 games without him, and out of those 8 games, they only lost 3. So they actually had a winning record even before Nico joined the team.
And again, that goes into the whole meshing aspect and maybe it taking some time. But yeah, really no excuse. Both of those teams should have been in. But
Like,
at the end of the day,
even-
that shows the parity in EU.
It does.
It's a good competition you're going up against
You
for
have
almost
high
every
competition.
game. You know? Even look at teams like Hellraisers and Heroic.
At the
Those are
same
not
time, I would
walkthrough
like
teams.
to think though, a FaZe clan not caring as much could still beat at the moment a Na'Vi team who wants to win,
Or envious.
or
who's in the tournament.
envious, or anything like that. I would like to assume, if you told all these teams right now, hey, it's going to be a single elimination tournament where the top 6 get in, I think they would care a lot more than if you stretch this out through a season. I think you would see teams all of a sudden care a tad bit more.
With respects to the parity on the EU side, I mean, you look at rounds win versus losses, everyone's pretty dang close to 50-50 across the board. In NA, that's where you see the disparity of a bunch of teams really 100 rounds over on win versus loss. And so it just kind of shows all these games are close. You don't have blowout wins on the EU side. It's super competitive, and it's been that way for a while. And like I said, there's no easy solution here to kind of fix what we're seeing. And you're going to have teams every year like a FaZe and Astralis, maybe not 1-2, but every year really good teams not making it to the finals in this case.
It's hard to fall from the top
Yeah.
in esports. You kind of have to try. Look at Fnatic, right? They were top of the world, made a roster move, they sucked, and then all of a sudden they were like, oh, let's just go back to what was working. And let's move on. So that's setting the stage, right? It's kind of previewing or reviewing the season. Looking at the group stage, which starts on the 31st, which I think is next Wednesday. Even though we got an email today saying Tuesday, pretty sure that email's wrong. It's Wednesday. Group stage kicks off for this $750,000 tournament on May 31st. Now, the group stage, it is closed to the public. So if you were planning on going to group stage, you can't. That being said, apparently Java Gaming Cafe in Carrollton, which isn't that far away from the venue, that's like the official viewing public party.
Oh, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So they do have a Java Gaming Cafe in Carrollton. So if you're in the area, that's where you can go join all the other people.
And obviously
I guess.
this will be online as well for you to watch.
Of course. Now, Group A, there's 2 groups, Group A, Group B, and they mixed everything up here. So in Group A, we have SK Gaming, G2, Immortals, Fnatic, Cloud9, and Envious. What are your thoughts on Group A?
Group of death? Like, that has to be, right?
It's definitely the stronger group of the two. I mean, you're looking at probably the top 2 favorites being in the same group.
SK and G2?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, or at least 2 of the stronger teams. Most people would probably agree with that.
That's fair enough.
Now, you do have, you guys had mentioned earlier, but just to kind of reiterate, you do have the top 3 advancing from each group.
So the way the group stage is working, top 3 move on, and then the winners of the group go on. They automatically get a bye week and go to the semis.
Yeah. So you'll still have an opportunity for a third team to slip in there, but the third team, is still going to be very good competition, and that's going to be a very tough group. Looking forward to really watching that group and seeing who comes out alive.
Where are we at with Fnatic?
Fnatic is the same team to me that they've kind of always been, but have started to lack the firepower that they once had. So what they do, and this has always been their issue, they don't have a consistent map pool. They used to just be kind of good enough at every map to get by and win with raw talent. Now when you lack strategy and you start to not have Olaf at the top of his game and be the #1 player in the world, it's hard to win like that. So without a map pool that they can rely on other than your basic, Mirage and Cash, which are going to get vetoed on them, they don't have a good fallback. So they'll struggle in this group, I feel, and I see them having a very hard time advancing.
The one team in this group that I think stands out to everyone as far as the probably got lucky even making it out of the season play, and that's Envious. Like, out of all the teams that even made it through, okay, even more so than NRG, I feel like Envious is the one that just doesn't make any sense.
But, they have players that have been there. RPK,
I mean,
Scream, Sixer.
Happy.
They've always been there. Yeah, Happy.
They've all been top levels. It's just Envious has not been playing top.
They're not who they once
They slipped in. They won it by tiebreaker. If you don't know, 6, 7, and 8, which would be Envious, FaZe, and Astralis, all had the same record. They won by tiebreaker, so they're the ones that slid in there. Again, find it very hard to see them advancing, but they have enough talent to be in the tournament, right? I mean, they have enough star power. It'll be nice to see Scream at one of these events still, and not see him, completely them fall off into the abyss. But yeah, it's going to be hard for them also.
Yeah, I mean, I I look at this group and it's like I see him maybe getting 1 or 2 maps.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, a team like Immortals is going to make it a little bit easier for everybody. I still feel like it's going to be hard for them without FNX. I think that transition is going to take more than 2 weeks. So that becomes a team that I think people were worried about after they played so well at DreamHack Austin. They had really been showing themselves as a team to reckon with, and now it's like
you don't have your best player.
You don't have your best player, so good luck with that.
Yeah.
So Brett, who do you have? Top 3. So give me the 3 people you have coming out of Group A, and then the winner.
All right. So I got SK. I mean, they're a lock. Like if you don't have SK, you're on something. Then I have G2, another obvious choice. I mean, those are the 2 highest seeds in this tournament. And then I have C9. I mean, going back to what I said previously, the way they've been doing lately, just looking at their last couple of matches, and then also the continuity, I think they'll get out of this group.
And you have SK winning the group?
I have SK winning the group. I think they'll get more maps than C9, but I think C9 could do better than G2. I can see it happening.
Anuj?
I'm on the same page as Brett on this one for this group. I have SK winning the group. I don't think they'll run away with it. I think they will drop a map here and there, but I have SK winning the group. I got G2 and C9 as well. I probably would rank G2 second coming out of the group, and C9 being a really close 3. I think between C9 and Fnatic is where it gets really interesting in this group. I think when they play each other, that'll be the deciding 3rd team. And so I think that's one hell of a matchup to look forward to. You have 2 star teams fighting for that last spot, in my opinion. But yeah, I think I got the same 3 teams going, with SK also coming out on top.
And I'm the same exact way. So all 3 of us have the same exact feelings when it comes to Group A. I have SK winning.
Yeah.
I feel like G2 will be in there, and then, of course, I'm going to vote for Cloud9 because I'm a homer.
Can't turn your back.
My only concern with Cloud9 is that they're not a good best of 1 team. They really strive off of building off of their mistakes and winning the best of 3 series. And in groups, it's not best of 3s. It's, you play each team and then you keep moving on. So that's where I could see Cloud9 falter. But at the same time, the teams or the players of Cloud9, they can, Automatic and Stewie 2K can easily look like the most dynamic duo. Shroud can, go Twitch mode and go crazy. So Cloud9 is fascinating because they can be such a wild card.
They can frag with pretty much any team.
When they're on.
When they're on. Yeah.
And they have to get on early.
Right.
So if they fall behind or they lose a couple of games early and have to claw their way back in, I don't see it happening.
No, and that's why I said that's why they struggle with best of 1s, because if they don't have that strong start,
they run the roller coaster issue, right? They play ups and downs, and when they're high, they're high. So if they start off hot in the tournament, win the first game, hopefully they don't. I don't know who they're playing first, so I don't have that matchup in front of me. But
I believe if the press release that we got is following the schedule, I believe they play SK first. I believe.
Yeah,
if that is the schedule.
So on here, oh yeah, so their first 2 games are SK and G2.
Okay, so if
that's the teller right there, right?
I think they got to go 1-1. They got to find a way to pull one of those
really,
out.
I
would agree.
really hope that is not the actual schedule, because if they have to start the day off against those 2 teams and go 0-2, that is very
so their schedule
unfortunate
day
because they have to
1
win out.
is SK, G2, and Envious is day 1. And then day 2, it's, Fnatic, Immortals, and that's how they wrap up. So they got 3 games day 1. They got to come out of that 2-1, and then
They have to steal one from SK
Gotta steal one.
or G2.
Can't come down in a clutch situation.
They did.
Them and Fnatic.
Let me see what. Hold on. They were playing SK today in ECS.
Yeah,
and they did beat them one of the maps. I don't know about the.
So that would make it, 3 maps in a row for them.
My point with
SK.
this is they can beat SK.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, I'm not, as a Cloud9 fan, okay, SK beat them once, so. But I'm not afraid of SK. In a weird way, I'm not worried about it. As a Cloud9 fan, I feel like we've beaten them Cloud9's beaten them in the past.
It should be worried. It's LAN. So it's a different ball game for them. If it was online, I would be like, hey, Tim, you got a point here, but LAN.
I'm not afraid of any tier 2 NA team.
Okay.
Group B, moving on. Group B, not saying, oh, no, we kind of, we made a big meh towards Group B, but not saying that it's a bad group.
There's some spots for.
I think it's really top heavy. I think you got 3 teams that outclass everybody.
You have North, Team Liquid, Mouse Sports, NRG, Navi, and then Optic Gaming. I really don't know where to start with this one, so I'll let you guys.
Go ahead, Noosh.
So on this one, like I said, I felt like it was top heavy. So my 3 teams I feel like are pretty much locked in for me. It'd be hard to convince me otherwise. And it'd be Mouse, North, and Navi in this case. Even though Navi's been struggling, I don't see them having issues with teams like NRG and Liquid. I think Optic's a little bit more of a toss-up with them, but even then, I think they come out on top there. North is consistent. It's hard for me to say that I can run away with them and pick them to win a tournament like this.
Didn't North also perform really bad at the major qualifier?
They did.
Like they went out last place. They did worse than.
But they've been very consistent in ESL Pro League. They finished the season 19-7. They had over 100 round differential. The only team to break 100. Actually, the only team to have above a 60 round differential in the EU side, and they're at 115. So it was a blowout as far as when they were winning games, they were crushing teams. So I will take them to advance along with Mouse and Navi. My number 1 team in this group is actually going to be Mouse coming out of it, in my opinion. I feel like they...
Really?
It's a little bit of a sleeper pick.
Do you think they sneak through all the other teams beating each other up?
Well, a little bit of that, and I think Oscar and Ropes, the combination of them has been so much fun to watch. Both of those players, Ropes being the new incomer that ended up being Nico's replacement. He was kind of an online pug sensation that you saw. He won all of these, what are those, at Season S that they do on
And he's really
ESEA.
kind of picked it up.
Yeah, he has.
Very similar to Nico when he went to FaZe.
He's been their
little
clutch
adjustment.
Rifler for them and taken Nico's spot.
It's the
and
raw
really
talent
done well with it. Yeah, very
that's
good.
Carried him.
And Oscar has proven to be one of the best oppers in the world, and it's hard to deny him that title, at least of a top 5 opper in the game currently. One thing also that I've seen with Mouse that's had me more of a believer on them is since Nico's departure, you've seen Dennis and Spitty perform a lot better. And the reason I think that's happening is because instead of playing the game around Nico, you're now putting players into positions where they're more comfortable, rather than, hey, we have Nico, let him do his thing, and everybody else follow behind. So Dennis has also really, really played well for him. I said Spitty. I meant Lowell. On the team. Sorry, Spitty.
I was going to let you go.
Yeah. I meant Lowell. Dennis has played really well, so I think that's going to help them propel them going out of groups and advancing. And I think they get the number 1 seed out of Group B.
Fascinating. Brett?
All right, so the way I look at it, I see 2 teams here that are pretty much locks. North, I think they'll come out with the best record out of this group. Second, I have Na'Vi. You can't really count a team with Guardian, Simple, Edward. That the roster is just too good for them not to be a lock in this tournament. Even though they've been inconsistent, they've lost twice to Mouse Sports most recently, but it's LAN. I just think that they're going to come through. But my third team, and I'm probably going to get slammed for this, but I'm going to go with Liquid because
that's not as I thought you were going to go NRG.
You were going to go NRG, and then I was going to say
no.
Liquid I can live with.
I don't think NRG even get a map in this. Okay, but maybe they do. I don't know.
No, they don't.
But I look at Liquid, and in North American tournaments, I mean, that's when JDM and Elige just go God mode and they find a way, right? So they're my third team out of this group. I like, more to your point, I like Mouse Sports. I like the additions that they've made recently, but I just think in a tournament, that's when, Elige and JDM just go ham.
Elige becomes that monster that we all love to see.
Dropping that 30, that 40 bomb.
If it happens, it wouldn't make me feel sad because it truly is fun, and for the fans, it'll be a lot of fun too.
Play for your next team, Elige. All right, carry him, please.
Now, as far as mine go, I'm going to give North the group just kind of by default. It's not that I feel super confident in them, but they're North, and they've earned that respect, right? It's a default pick. Yeah. It's not a fancy pick by any means. I'm going to make Mouse Sports my number 2. Basically, for all the reasons you said, Anuj, I think that they're overlooked a lot of the times. I think Oscar is overlooked as an opper in general. And I think they're really good at being consistent, which is one of the things in a group play. Now, for my third, this is where I'm a little rattled. It's either Team Liquid or Optic for me. I don't think Na'Vi is going to make it out of groups.
Really?
I think they are struggling. I think there's more to it than just their gameplay that hurts. It just doesn't look like they get it. Like, their body language is terrible when they're losing. Similar to Cloud9, if they don't get off hot, they don't make comeback.
They're one early exit away from a roster change, in my opinion.
I agree.
If you see another early exit here and they don't make it out of groups, I would not be shocked if they make some moves. And the weird thing is,
and I don't know who it
Simple's
would be.
Not even the one that's like raging or causing internal issues. No. He's actually been the calming figure here. But
it's been weird to see.
It's been weird to watch that decline and how rapid it's taken place because they were playing.
Well, it's also odd too that it started when Simple joined the team.
Well, they were hot going into the E-League Major, and remember they had an early matchup against Astralis, and it knocked them out at that point.
That doesn't help. I think it's been like 2 tournaments where
they had Astralis back to back, and I think that kind of demotivated them because you then go on to see Astralis win both of those.
But then
tournaments.
They lost to Misfits,
and
that's not Astralis.
Then it's been just kind of
what
carried
excuse
over
do you have that?
Flamey hasn't been the star that they've needed him to be. Simple does not have the freeness and the mobility that he had on a team like Liquid or Hellraisers to kind of move around because they're very organized in your spots. This is what we do. They're going to play a slow pace game. They need to let the beast loose at some point.
I agree.
And if you don't do that,
that's one of the things. Like when you think back when Simple was on Liquid, you heard his name so much during a match, right? You constantly heard him being clutch and getting the triple kills, getting aces, making that difference, getting the pick that swings the map around to be on Liquid's side.
The strategy on Liquid was simple: do what you want to do. Everybody else, here's your spot, And
with Na'Vi, they tried to bring him on as, hey, you are part of Na'Vi.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to listen to
one
Guardian.
Man is bigger than the team. Type
attitude,
yeah. And it's not
been working out for him.
No.
So that's why I don't have them moving on. I think how you were saying, Anuj, that it's been carrying over. I think it carries over into Dallas, and I would not be surprised if a roster move happened quickly after that.
It's a long play ride.
So just because I guess I have sentimental attachment, I'll give it to Liquid moving out. I think Optic, they're good. Oddly enough, it seems like Optic always has rumors flying around that roster is about to blow up. And then it always comes back to where, no, we're going to stay.
They overperformed, and they got the hype train going really high. Stannis left. They lost their in-game leader at that point, and now it just feels like kind of a ragtag group. I don't have nearly as much faith in them as I did previously, and Jason R really hasn't sold me on that either to make me believe in any way that he's the savior for the team. So yeah, I see them in NRG finding it pretty difficult to win a game unless it's maybe over a Liquid or something like that. I could see them both struggling.
They are super just inconsistent. Even like the last couple of tournaments I've watched, it's just you never really felt like they were in it. Like just looking at their last match, win, loss, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Like literally back and forth. Like they can't get anything going. They can't like string anything together. That's been kind of like their MO. Right?
Now, for them to give them a slight glimmer of hope, you Optic fans out there, they did get third at IEM Sydney, did get third at CS Summit, so they have still managed to perform well on LAN. Both of those, I believe, are with Jason R on board, kind of running the show for them as far as an in-game leader. I know that's kind of been tossed around with who's doing everything for him, but they performed well on LAN, so that could maybe be your one saving grace for them to possibly get that third and final slot in that group.
Nonetheless, even though Group A does seem to be more of the exciting group, Group B has the unknown factor.
Yeah.
Considering we all picked the same 3 teams to make it out of Group A, that one might be a little bit more straightforward. Group B,
Group A is the group of death, and we all were
right. Yeah, it can't be that
North.
bad.
I mean, North is one of those teams that even though we all feel that they are kind of more of an obvious favorite in that group. Obviously, I didn't pick them to win it, but I know they're gonna. I feel like they'll do well. Obviously, too. They lost to Chiefs at IEM Sydney, and their only win in that tournament, which was I believe the most recent LAN, if I'm not mistaken, was a 25-23 win over Optic, and that's the only game that stopped them from being 0-4 on LAN. So again, they're a team that performs well online. Let's see how they do coming onto the big stage again.
And Optic could be the upset one in there. Now, with all that being said, the playoffs start on Saturday the 3rd. From 10 to 4, you're going to have playoff play there with the quarterfinals and semifinals. Quarters and semis are all going to be on Saturday.
We talked about this before,
yes,
how we love this type of format.
Yeah,
so they are 10 to 4.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
It's like
where they need to just championship Sunday and let it be.
Yeah,
Boys, there's
exactly.
a reason they gave us press passes. They obviously listen to the podcast.
That's right. So there is no doubt that they've never listened to the podcast. But you do have the playoffs starting. Quarters and semis will all be on Saturday from 10 to 4. Lord knows that means probably 11 to maybe 9 at night.
Yeah.
Just because that's how esports works. And then on Sunday from 10 to 1 is what they have scheduled for a show match and the finals, the grand finals.
Do we know who the show match is?
I don't know. If it's anything like the show match that was at MLG Columbus, it was awful and a waste of time, and I hated it.
Was that the pros versus...
It was an all-star game.
Yeah,
That's all it was. It was your all-star game, and it was so not exciting.
I hear they're bringing in FaZe and Astralis for the show match here.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the NFL. You got the Pro Bowl there is just like spares that didn't make it to the Super Bowl,
that is,
and it's just
like... But imagine if they played the Pro Bowl literally the same day just before the Super Bowl.
Which
and
they used to.
How little you would care about the Pro Bowl.
And then the Pro Bowl goes into overtime and delays
the Super Bowl. That's exactly what happened at MLG Columbus, and we were not able to see the finals because it went into like triple overtime, the All-Star game did.
Oh my god.
Because the players were just jerking around, knifing, and, purposely seeing how long it can go. It was awful. So
I mean, that's when an admin needs to just step in and be like,
the MLG should have been like, okay, we're going to do a knife round and we're going to call this quits. But whatever. I hope the show match is more entertaining this time around. But that's what's going to go down Sunday. Okay? That is open to the public. You can get tickets. I'm sure on ESL.com, or do whatever you got to do to get those. We will be there, so come say hi to us. Real quick before we get on to E-News, who do you have winning it all, Brett?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say C9. Just the way they've played recently. The other favorite being SK. They've handled SK the last couple of times. I think, with the teams that are out of it, 5 of the top 10 teams, this is a tournament that's winnable. Like, they can go out and win it.
Anuj.
I am going with Navi. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. I'm actually going to go with the heavy favorites here. I'm going to go with SK. Reasoning behind that is really the last 3 tournaments, or other than DreamHack Tours. SK finished number 1 at IEM Sydney. They took CS Summit, and second at DreamHack Las Vegas. So they have been a team that's found a way to replace FNX and really make that gel together. They're playing well. C9's kind of been their kryptonite, so I like Brett's pick a lot in this case. If they end up meeting each other later in the game, I just don't know how much faith I have in C9 getting out of the groups potentially. But so I'm going to go with the safe pick, and I'm going to say SK takes it in a close game, and I think G2 is right there also, but SK.
And we all know my bit by now, so I'm going to pick Cloud9 to win it all. Probably not drop a map the entire tournament.
Oh, wow.
With that being said, we're about to drop the show. So let's get on to some E-News. It's a very light E-News, considering we did a show 2 days ago and not a whole lot happened. But of course, E-News is your weekly segment of headlines and news that we just didn't have time to get to on this episode. And starting us off and ending it, we will talk about PEA. We all remember what that is.
Yeah, the P.
Professional Esports Association?
Something worst.
Something that Sean
worst
Garrett
name
hated.
ever.
That's all I remember.
Something like that. Yes, so they announced after being silent from, I believe, February 20th was their last tweet when basically it blew up that they were just jerks and were trying to swindle pros and teams and everything, that they picked up Misfits and Dignitas to be a part of the association.
For Overwatch, right?
No, it's Counter-Strike.
Yeah, Counter-Strike.
But, okay, so that being said, I thought I read a tweet where Sean Garris was like, look, hey, I know I've been getting a lot of messages about this, but let me be clear. This is not CSGO for Misfits. This is Overwatch. They picked up Misfits was picked up for Overwatch, but Sean Garris actually tweeted that out not too long ago. But me and you talked about it. I was like, wait a minute. Like, look, okay, when you were part of TSM, this was like a big deal for you guys, and you were kind of like on the forefront of
like this is a very anti-organization.
Yeah.
And you completely blew up the TSM roster,
right?
Because you were so upset about it. Now, I think partially that was more so because the way the ownership handled it. I think he was more so upset that the TSM ownership never confronted the players about it beforehand and kind of lied in the most nicest way possible about it. Let me see here. I'm looking at this. 2 North Americans popular esports organizations. Man, in their press release, they don't state whether or not it's Counter-Strike. I guess I just always assumed Counter-Strike. So I guess I'm going to take your word and Sean Garris's word that it's going to be just the Overwatch team. But that is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to segregate just your Overwatch team when it's the organization joining in?
Yeah, but from what
still
I
has a bad look to it.
Yeah, I just
no. Me and Tim at the same time, like when we mentioned it, he was like, Tim told me, he was like, hey, PEA, here are the teams that are going, and I was like, so the former TSM roster, huh?
And I also love that the whole beef with PEA before, the last fiasco and after was their communication sucked, right? That was always the thing, is that they never really gave straight answers and ruined players and everything there. And yet, literally, their one tweet May 25th And then the only tweet before that was February 17th. So it's like, okay, again, it's the communication that people want from you guys. Anuj, do you have something for, is that what you were waving me down for?
Yeah, so, I follow a couple different people on Twitter, one of them being somebody that's really well known within the Counter-Strike scene, Decay, who seems to have a
Lots of connections.
firsthand beat on kind of everything that's going on within the scenes. He's just really, really well connected and usually fairly spot on with, you can basically trust him and his sources for the most part. But he just announced that there is serious talks going on right now with North acquiring Valde. I'm not sure how you pronounce
It's Valde. That's how I say it.
Valde from Heroic, because his contract is coming to an end, and that would be a replacement for AZ.
Well, and they didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Valde the one that Heroic just let go? Because of his contract.
His contract is coming to an end.
They're just not agreeing. But I think they already announced that they're not going to renew it.
They're far apart in talks, is what he said. So they said that.
Wow, and they're going to release AZ.
AZ would be the.
And AZ just recently joined them back in February when he
didn't have choice, but he was replaced by Nico. New requirement. AZ would then, I feel like, get lost in the Swedish shuffle somewhere, is what would end up happening.
And Brett, what do you have?
All right, so I found the tweet that Sean Garris put out, and it reads like this. So it says, PEA has no plans to have a CSGO league. Misfits joining PEA has nothing to do with CSGO league/team. So
Man,
that's a little too vague for me to like.
I do not trust that at all. That is just so many things could just be slipped right in there.
And even if they don't plan on having a league, doesn't mean that they're not involved with PEA.
And this is what I don't.
Right?
Yeah, right. Like, so if your beef was with PEA, why are you okay with your Overwatch buddies getting screwed by them?
I think the difference
if you're gonna make a stance, make a stance.
He put TSM in a very awkward situation that made him look bad and TSM look bad at the same time. I think he's trying to just do everything he can to avoid that same look.
There's no secret what side me and Tim were on. And it's like,
I think it was everything was handled very poorly on both parties, but
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what's gonna happen with that. But as far as seeing what happens with the show, we are done. I want to thank you all for listening to episode 61 of The Center Ring. I appreciate you stopping by and listening. Please follow the show on Twitter. I can't stress it enough. It's at The Center Ring.
On Instagram as well.
On Instagram, just look it up. You'll find it.
We'll be posting some kind of behind-the-scenes pictures this week from the tournament, obviously, that's taking place, ESL, which we discussed today. We'll have an opportunity to be back there and get to see some sneak peeks, hopefully. So keep an eye out. We should post some fun stuff this week coming up for you guys.
And again, share the episode. We grow based off of your interaction, and we definitely appreciate it. You can go to the website, tcr.gg. There's a little contact us on the bottom there. Let us know what you think of the show. If you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to ask. We'll probably address it. We do have Discord. We're always there to be reached. We do communicate. We're always there playing Overwatch or something. But until maybe next week, we'll see. We are going to ESL Pro League. I'm sure we could find time to fit in the show. Maybe Thursday after groups. Or Friday. I think if they do groups Wednesday, Thursday, maybe we'll do a show Friday to preview it. I don't know. The best way to find out is follow us on Twitter again at The Center Ring. But until next time, thank you so much, and bye.